Hey everybody, hope you're well. This is Trevor here from Orbit Sling. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the death of deliverability. Dramatic title, but people have seen deliverability of email drop off in the last 4, 5, 6 months, even. And so we just wanted to go over a little bit about what that might mean, what you can do to avoid that and have your inboxes have your campaigns be working for you, and overall just what do you need to do to hit inbox at the moment. So if you don't know who I am, my name's Trevor. I run orbitsling.com, founder. We build powerful growth systems for B2B service companies, and a lot of the work we are doing is outreach, and a big portion of that outreach is of course cold email. And so we work with people who have never done cold email before. We work with people who have been doing it, but it stopped working for them, and we come in and fix that. And we've been doing it kind of for anywhere in between on those things. Just talked to somebody last week who they used to be able to blast with Mailchimp and get people to sign up, and these days that's just not possible. So yeah, just wanted to jump in here. Let's roll it out. And before we dive into what has changed, we should probably talk about what people have been doing. So in the last, let's say 2, 3 years, let's go 2023, 4, and 2025. What people have been doing is, number one, you can't blast 10,000 emails per day on one domain and one mailbox. You can do that a little bit with, if you're sending to people who have already opted into your mailing list, but you can't do that in this particular instance when we're reaching out to people cold. So what do? You grab multiple domains related to your domain, you grab multiple inboxes on each of those, and then we spread sending messages across multiple inboxes to the point where a given inbox sends one sort of human-sized portion of emails in a given day. Let's say, in the last few years, that's been 20, 25, 30. I won't dive in deep now. I think the move is actually to keep that a lot less per mailbox, but that gives you an idea of what people have been doing. Now, with that, they've been using sequencers, and that's something like Instantly, Smart Lead. There's a whole bunch of these. And what they'll do is essentially, they all kind of do the same thing. They make it so that you can manage spreading all of that infrastructure for sending and get it all into one inbox where you can reply to people. And yeah, basically just allow one person to manage all of that. Now, the second thing that those sequencers do is something we call warm up. And all that is just basically simulating regular human, everyday B2B kind of stuff on your inboxes. And then, so what has been working in the past was you grabbed a new domain, you set up 3 inboxes on it with, some sort of Google inboxes, and then you warm that up for 14 to 21 days, and then you start sending, 20, 25 emails per day, and then you start getting replies back, and those turn into meetings and you close them, right? Like, I guess that second part hasn't changed. It's just become a lot harder to get into that, actually land in the inbox to make the rest of that happen. So what has been changing? Well, we're seeing a lot more AI fingerprinting in the spam traps. We're seeing domain age starting to be an important factor into what's going on. And we're seeing that if you make drastic changes in the amounts of emails that your boxes are sending, you're gonna flag something, and they're gonna take a closer look. Um, Now, there's a few kind of tug and war things going on here, right? On one hand, you've got, let's say, these platforms, Gmail, Google, I should say Google Workspace Mail or something, Outlook, both of these, and I guess Yahoo and whoever else, but we're not usually sending to personals, and majority of B2B is using one of those two, right? So for the purposes of this, generally speaking, for a spam trap, or for a spam filter, I mean, what they want is to catch anything that is irrelevant to their users. On the other hand, they want to not catch anything that is actually important to their users. So there's this constant tug of war going, because if they go too hard on this filtering side, well, then you start losing important emails, and that becomes annoying and a problem for the users. So you need to be really smart about this, which is why we've been able to get around this, right? Like, by simulating a regular sort of activity, I should say. Well, by simulating regular activity on an inbox, on a given mailbox, we've been able to just pretend we're like, look at us, we're a regular business inbox, sending regular business emails to people that, we might already work with. It's not quite cold, maybe. So with that, they're just getting a little smarter about it because they have to be more sophisticated about it. But then the other thing to remember is that they're going to be watching out for like little flags here because they can't afford to run, the latest top AI model on every single thing that comes in because that's going to get computationally expensive very quickly. So there's just going to be some behaviors and they're going to be learning these patterns. And this is, the number one thing AI does is it's a pattern recognition engine. And so it's becoming more and more important to just make sure that you're not falling into the patterns and that you're not going to get stuck there on the other hand. So with Outlook, the biggest affected in the last few months, since mid 2025, it is extremely difficult to land in an Outlook inbox and not spam, especially if you're sending from Google infrastructure. We'll talk a little more about infrastructure at the end, but that's just something to know. Like, it's gotten to the point where people are saying filter Outlook out of your campaigns and don't send to them because you're just going to be risking your domain. It seems to use a spam confidence level model, 0 to 9. And then it's pretty easy to get. It's sort of like 2 to 4, 0 to 2 and 2 to 4 are like you're on some ice, but like just keep an eye on it. They're just keeping an eye on you. But once you get to like 5 to 9, it's pretty hard to recover and it takes weeks if you can even recover. You're not quite blacklisted, so to speak, because I think they found that's just too easy to monitor. If something gets blacklisted, we just remove it. We drop the domain and buy a new one. So Outlook seems to be rewarding age, seems to be rewarding trust, and it also is rewarding slow scaling. And then just a final note there, it's very difficult to reach Fortune 1000 inboxes. Won't dive deep into that, but like that's probably for obvious reasons. Those are the guys that just get the most cold email, right? So if you're sending to them, you're going to have a little bit of a different strategy. Cold email can probably be a part of that, but I won't dive deep on that now, but you should probably have a few other methods of getting in contact with, your addressable market there. Gmail, on the other hand, has been more forgiving. And I guess by forgiving, we actually just mean it hasn't changed that much. It's still largely behavior based. Which means it just rewards getting replies, it rewards getting engagement. And longer campaigns can work if your target addressable market allows. And what I mean by that is like longer sequences, like following up. Shorter, I still would say for the most part here at Orbitsling, we're not sending with one subject line, we're not sending more than 2 or 3 emails max. And for a lot of the cases, we're sending 1, unless we know it's working very well. And there's a few reasons for that. Number one is just the longer sequence, the more likely you are to get marked as spam. And that's become very important to not have happen, right? Now, the other reason for that is usually your first email is the one that gets the most, most replies and meetings booked. The second email, you're just trying to clean up a few more who maybe forgot about it. Third, fourth, fifth, it becomes problematic. There's different strategies and different things you can do here to try and make sure that that'll work for you. But at the end of the day, we like to err on the side of less until we know something's working. Let's put it that way. Lastly, for tracking, look, like just stop tracking open rates. You probably already should have since 2024. But really, these days, we're just noticing it hurts deliverability. Now, early this year, we were doing it a few times per week just to check that we were inboxing. But now we're just finding that's not a reliable way to know that you're inboxing. And they do seem to be punishing it, which makes some sense. The main people interested in if their email gets opened these days who are sending it cold are going to be us cold email blasters, right? Kind of makes sense. So what we do instead, talk a little differently about deliverability. The first thing is like, what are your real metrics here? Well, your true north is going to be your manual replies. We're splitting replies here into manual and sort of automated, aka like your out of office replies, your this person no longer works your replies. The true north metric is of course your manual replies. And really on these, the percentage that are positive is something that matters, but we won't dive in here because we're just talking about deliverability here, right? So you can see those benchmarks here. For those, your mileage may vary there. You might get higher than that if you have something particularly interesting. But these are your metrics to just say, like, we seem to be getting into the inbox. Out of office replies, though, are becoming more important because they actually prove whether or not you are inboxing. And so we actually monitor this. This is something important that I think everybody should do is on a per mailbox basis, somewhat. Of course, you can't probably one day of data if you're only sending 5, 6 emails from one mailbox. It's not going to be a good indication. But overall, for a campaign especially, this has become an early warning signal over here. Like if your out of offices drop off out of nowhere, then you know something is amiss and you might be able to save it. And the goal here is to keep down spam. 3 per 1,000 sends is kind of a metric that's largely accepted in the industry. We don't know if that's changed or not. It's always been a bit of a black box, right? So with the domain health, that's what we're seeing become very important. So we monitor this daily. If a single, and you want to monitor bounces, but if the way I see it, like most of these platforms, so if we use Instantly, for example, they'll be monitoring the warm up and they'll give you a score of basically 0 to 100%. 100% meaning like we haven't seen anything go to spam recently. 98% means we have one thing go to spam recently. And this is in our like warm up pool. If we see that drop below 98%, we immediately remove that mailbox from sending, which ends its sequence. But anyway, we're just finding that like, well, in the past, you used to be able to drop all the way down to like 78%. You'd be fine. No, now it's 98%. The out of office drop gives you an early warning system, so just keep an eye on it. If your campaign especially stops seeing that, then your domains might be at risk. So the next thing up is don't heal bad domains. Now there's some nuance here. There's some like good becoming bad here that if you catch it early, you might be able to just drop it from sending, boost up the warm up rate and see that not have an effect. But if you have anything really bad, it might not be worth healing them. It might be worth, like it does if it doesn't cost you anything, or if the cost is negligible to you, then keep it going. No worries there. Sorry. Keep it warming up in the background. Take it off sending still. Keep it warming up for a few weeks and see if you can get it back. But a lot of the time it's a lost cause once you're flagged by Outlook especially. So yeah, if it drops below 98%, remove the box from sending immediately. You can automate this. That's what we do. I have a full automated system that tells me, what inboxes are sending, what are not able to send, and whether or not we need to replace a domain. So in order to hit the inbox, what do we need to do? Well, this is becoming more and more important, and that is your domain age is now king. Older is now safer because to try to stand out in an industry full of people buying a whole bunch of new, fresh domains and then sending from them. How do you do that? Well, have some older domains. So you can buy expired aged.com domains via different auctions. And we do recommend .com. And that's actually not for deliverability, so I won't dive deep here, but people trust .com more. If you're in a place where, like Australia or maybe New Zealand and the UK, where you have like a .co.uk or .com.au. Those are probably also good trust signals, but just note those cost more and you have to prove that your business, I believe in most cases, you have to prove that your business name falls under that somehow. So yeah, we just recommend .com because it's a lot easier and there's not much oversight into buying them and you can get them on sale a lot of the time. But yeah, so the key takeaway for me would be just stop churning domains. Buy more than you think you need. Keep them warm. Age is becoming king. So warm up and ramp is becoming important as well. 21-day warm up minimum. And I put 10 emails per day per max per inbox with an asterisk because it does greatly depend on where you're getting your mailboxes on what the best practice is. So follow the latest advice you get on that. Obviously, it's not quite scientific. So just take what anybody says with a slight grain of salt, small grain of salt. Gradually increase when you launch the campaign. We've noticed that if you go from sending 100 to sending like 1,000 on the same campaign, which in the past worked great, and we found something that worked great, scale it up. That's no longer going to be working, it seems. And with Outlook, you should even warm up more. And then 70 to 100% reply rate. Again, these are broad recommendations. It really depends on what you're seeing work. Just follow what the people you buy your inboxes say is currently the best practice. And if they don't know, buy from somebody else because it would worry me if they didn't know what was best. The copy and sequence is becoming more important. So what people have been doing is essentially going, you know, they'll put a subject line, sometimes it's the same, sometimes they'll throw a variable in there. Then they'll put this line here, a personalization or an icebreaker line, which is AI generated, talks about the research they've done about somebody. And then for the rest of the email, they're sort of templating it out. That's no longer working. We're seeing that gets caught very easily. And so one of the things we recommend doing now is um, doing a heavier spin on this. Ideally, each email is a little bit unique. And we use AI, clay.com, for this. AI is very bad at writing an entire email. Make sure your AI doesn't suck. But essentially, if you can give it a very tight template to follow and turn down the temperature, it's very good at filling in a template based on other research that you've done. But then on top of that, 2 to 3 emails max per sequence. You're more likely to get spam marked if you just send endless ones. And you can see why. Like, we all get these LinkedIn messages that, they just follow up like 10 times. Hey, did you see my previous message? Hey, did you see my previous message? And it's like, yes, I saw it and I didn't like it. It was terrible. Stop bringing it up. So what you should do instead is send different sequences. And part of that could be, varying the subject rate. Varying the subject line. Nobody really remembers a cold email, but like, if you're sending day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, that gets annoying fast, and you're way more likely to be marked as spam. Um, and then just use a good structure. This is, one structure that we use. Poke the bear is a type of question that you ask. We have 2 or 3 more that we start people up on as well, which is just, we've got all the infrastructure built out to build these in clay.com very quickly for people. Because we already have the copywriting, like the heavy part of the copywriting is mostly done for you, and all the prompting is ready for us so that our team can just roll it out. Won't dive deep into that, of course, but if you want us to do that for you, well, you know where to find us. Orbisling.com. Look here, infrastructure recommendations. The core tech is going to be, a sequencer. I should have wrote sequencer here. That's going to be Smart Lead, Instantly. There's a few others, but these 2 are kind of the leaders. Your inboxes, I wouldn't bother with any SMTP inboxes. At this point, buy real Google or Outlook accounts only. Providers, on that, we would just say buy from a lot, because some of them are getting caught. A famous example recently, Instantly has a Google provider. A bunch of those are getting shut down at the moment. We don't know the exact details, but from what I gather from somebody else who works deeply in the cold email industry, getting people inboxes, he supposedly, allegedly knows the person who was supplying them, and it just seems like they got caught. That's it. So yeah, we like to buy Outlook to send to Outlook. This is called ESP matching, email service provider matching. Some people will say it doesn't work. In the past, I don't think it mattered, but now it seems to be mattering more and more. So we're buying Outlook boxes. There's some common ones for this. We really like hisend.io. Again, buy from multiple though. Because it's set up a little differently. There's 100 domains or 100 mailboxes on one domain, and each mailbox can send 5 emails per day max. We keep those on like 2 or 3 max. And then, yeah, even with just not using them to their full extent, we end up getting great results from that. You can use HS35 for an exclusive discount if you are signing up for Hisend. That makes it 35 USD instead of 40 euros. Sorry, 35 euros instead of 40. per month. Google Mini. So we do split these between instantly done for you, which, I just mentioned we're getting caught. They might, they're going to do everything they can to not have that happen though. We also buy from premium inboxes, and we even have some just straight up Google Workspace accounts. They're more expensive. But honestly, I think the days of like $2, $3 per inbox are probably counted. Like there's not that many days of this left. They've been using like weird loopholes to get around this. Vietnamese panel accounts that are like grandfathered onto an old plan. That's what like premium inboxes and instantly do, to the best of my knowledge. I just think those days are dying, and you're just not likely to be able to get anything under, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 USD per month and still get great results from it long term. So yeah, in closing, look, the biggest thing here is to just monitor things, keep an eye out. Domain age is becoming more and more important. So what that means is just if you're churning and burning domains like crazy, I would stop doing that immediately, start sending it half what you would consider capacity. And I guess I didn't dive deeply into on the infrastructure, but this is what we do, and I recommend anybody who's doing this at scale buy 2 to 3 times the domains and mailboxes that you think you're going to need. Split them into 3 cohorts, A, B, and C. Like, let's say if we're buying 3, so we're buying 3 times as many. We think we needed 10, we're buying 30. We think we needed 30, we're buying 90. Think we need 100, let's buy 300. That allows us to do a few things. But number one, on day one, when we set all of that up, we put it all into Instantly or Smart Lead, and then we turn on warm up at the recommended settings per provider. We split them into 3 cohorts within the platform using tags ABC, let's say. So when we do finally get ready to send after day 21 or so, we start sending with just A, and we leave B and C going in the background. Maybe we're going to get a month with A. Now we still have B and C just chilling there. This does 2 things for us. Number one, if we lose a domain, great, we already have it. We don't have to tell the client we need to buy a new one. We don't have to tell the client we need to buy new mailboxes and wait for 3, 4, 5 weeks to warm them up. We already have them. They're already aged. They're good to go. That's one thing that it does. But the second thing that this also accomplishes, which is probably even more important, is that this allows us to scale without necessarily turning up the amount of emails that we're sending on the A inboxes. So if we want to get B involved, it's not super hard. We just add cohort B into the campaign. Now that we found something that works really well, and then we chase after it. And still, like, we've doubled the amount of messages that we are sending, but we haven't doubled the amount of messages that cohort A is sending. We've just started cohort B on an equal sending platform. So yeah, that gives you an idea of how to get into the inbox in Q4. It's definitely working for us. I've heard of a lot of people that it's not working for, so this is why I decided to let's chat about the latest. And yeah, if you'd like OrbitSling to run something for you, if you've never tried cold email, we're happy to do a test campaign for you. Reach out. It's quite affordable. If you've done cold email and it's not working for you, also worth talking about how we can make it start working again. Thanks.